So, Jim,
Yes.
could you tell me a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a Nebraska kid. Grew up in western Nebraska. Moved to Texas when I was 13. Kind of unfortunate. Lost my folks. Went to live with an aunt and uncle. But I was really lucky to have that opportunity. And grew up in Nacogdoches and tried to figure out what to do for a living. And somehow fell into post production.
Could you tell me about your time at SHSU and why you chose to study radio, television, and film?
Sure. It's interesting because I went to Georgetown Southwestern University, I think it is, for pre-med, and I realized within about 3 days that I was in the wrong field, had nothing to do what I like to do, and so I called my uncle who had raised me, and he knew somebody in admissions here, and they said, yeah, we have a great music program. And I had been playing drums since I was about 9, so I thought, yeah, well, that's a place to start. So I came over here and started taking classes and was introduced to the RTF department. I kind of wanted to get into acoustics and recording, and so I kind of had to go through that department to do that, and was introduced to the radio, television, film department, and just kind of fell into it and loved it.
That's amazing. So you had a pretty successful career as a finishing editor. So how would you say SHSU prepared you for your successful career? And was there anything that the school offered that made a lasting impact on you?
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things in education is hands-on. You can read a book, you can look at theory, but until you put the camera in your hand and you see what it does for you and what your possibilities are, you really don't understand the business and the opportunities that might be there for you. Shooting is one thing, but then you have to put that together. And with a background in sound, I felt like, I could really do something with that. So kind of became drawn to directing and editorial work at a really early age into my scholastics here.
That's amazing. Do you have a favorite memory from your time at SHSU?
I do. It's funny, we always had to put on TV shows, right? That was part of one of our classes. I had one. My host, for some reason, always had a problem with his alarm. He could never make it to the studio on time, so I'd always have to drive over to his apartment and pull him out of bed and bring him over here. But one class in particular, you would have to shoot something film style. I think back then they called it news style. It was one camera, and I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I was like, all these people are doing these studio shows and sports shows and stuff like that. And so kind of reverting back to the music, I had a favorite song. And I thought, it kind of has a storyline to this song. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to find somebody that I can shoot this song with and cut that together and basically make a music video. Now, you have to realize this is like 1979, okay? MTV hasn't come onto the scene yet. It's not going to show up for about another 2 or 3 years. But I remember the professor and some of the other kids in the class thought, wow, that's pretty interesting stuff. So I thought, maybe I'm onto something here. So that was really a nice highlight to kind of have that affirmation that maybe I'm heading down the right path,
So how did you transition from being a student to working in the industry, and were there any challenges or important lessons that you learned?
So my first job out of college was at a small, it was a computer company. It was a part of Texas Instruments. They made the integrated circuits and they created these ovens, right, to put them on boards and run voltages through them, and they tested them. It was called user testing, was the name of the company. Is that right? Oh no, it was reliability. Reliability, wow, that's a long time ago. But I shot their product promotions, and I loved that job. And about 2.5 months in, the computer industry started to falter a little bit, and I lost my job. And I applied for every job in the Houston market that there was. I mean, I was going through the newspaper every day, calling everybody I knew, and I couldn't get a job. Channel 20 was new on the scene. I applied for everything they had, couldn't get a job. And so that was like a heartbreaker. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't have a job. I went about 9 months. And it's interesting because I kind of fell back onto my recording background. And there was a TV station in the 1960 area, a little local origination station that needed a recording engineer to record these high school bands for their Christmas shows. And I had to make a deal with this guy. I said, hey, look, I will go and record all of these for free. You don't have to pay me. But if you like the job, I want you to call me back and we can talk about a job. And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And so after about 2 or 3 weeks when they had finished that, I got a phone call. He goes, Jim, we got a problem. And I said, oh no, what do you mean? He goes, well, I need you to drive up here. You know, I need you to listen to this. It's a problem. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I messed this up somehow. He said, I want you to listen to that. Do you hear anything wrong? And I went, no, I don't think so. He goes, I don't either. He goes, and I promised you if it turned out okay, I'd offer you a job. That's my problem. I have to figure out how to offer you a job now. And so that was kind of the start of my next phase of life. It's fun.
Yes, that sounds amazing. Was there any specific advice or anything you learned in SHSU that kind of helped you with that transition into the industry?
You know, Dr. Robert Eubanks was the head of the department back then, and I think that really the inspiration that he gave me, he saw something in me that I didn't see. You know, he made me the general manager of the TV station for the last year that I was here, and he did everything he could to keep pulling me in to that, you know. I tried radio. I was terrible at radio. I don't know why. I was good at sound mixing and stuff, but I was terrible at radio. But he saw something in me, and he just gave me that encouragement that kind of made me feel like if I put my mind to it, I could do it. And I think that is what really made a huge difference in my life. If you can see yourself doing it, you can do it.
So what was it like to work in Hollywood? Because you do some editing for a lot of trailers for some films. So what's it like to work in Hollywood, and what are some of your favorite projects that you've had the experience of working on?
You know, that's the beauty about 40 years in this business. You get a lot of exposure to a variety of challenges. My first trip into Hollywood was in 1991. So I'd been out of school for 10 years, working hard in various cities. When I first was in Hollywood, I did visual effects. That was the earlier stuff, the movie Free Jack. I did the mind meld sequence for that. Worked on music videos for MC Hammer. I did all of MC Hammer's music videos. Did a music video for Seal, Katie Lang. Had some Michael Jackson and Prince were doing music videos in the facility that I worked in, but I really didn't have a hand in that. I do a little bit of help here and there. I think the big break was when I started working with Dick Clark, and so I did the American Music Awards, and every year for 3 years he had me do that. There was something that he saw in me that he liked, and so I went in and did that, but I'll say that it was never short hours. I would work more 24 and 30-hour days in those 7 years that I was there the first time than I'd ever worked in my life. And that taught me something. It taught me that it's not a 9-to-5 job, you know, and if you love it, it doesn't matter. You'll stay until the job's done. So, you know, it's work until it's complete, always give it your best, and always try to keep a positive frame of mind about it. So that's what I learned my first time there. But I did have a chance to go back 11 years later. We moved back to Texas, and the second time I went out there, my projects were a lot different. I was now a finishing editor. I didn't specialize in visual effects. I really concentrated mostly on the editing, and my clients weren't TV shows and music videos anymore. They were motion pictures and trailers. I did do a couple of TV shows after I kind of went out on my own. I was full-time with the company and started my own business, went out on my own, and have since gone back to that. But it's, you know, it teaches you that you have to be really good at your craft, and you have to be really open to the idea that at a drop of a hat, you're going to be working overnight, you know, long hours.
Yeah. So going back to your time at SHSU, how important do you think it is to have networking, connections, and internships whilst in university to have a successful career in your field?
You know, back then, obviously there wasn't an internet. no cell phones. You couldn't look a company up and just go in there and apply for a job. The jobs weren't listed online. Most jobs were found in magazines, trade magazines like Shoot and Post magazine. I would always try to get yellow pages from various cities like Los Angeles and New York so that I could look up the Post facilities, and then I would always call and talk to the receptionist and try to make my way through that phone call to the right person to talk to. And that was kind of a life of no connections and no networking. So if you did know somebody inside, it was extremely important to have a great relationship with that person. Now networking is very common. You know, you can email somebody, text somebody, hey, I saw a job that was open at our company, they reached back out to you. It's a lot more open, but I think that has the difference between then and now is networking and communication. It's extremely important, extremely important.
So how has the industry evolved since your time at SHSU? Because you graduated in 1981, was it?
That's correct.
Yeah, so a while ago. So
Yeah.
how's the industry evolved since graduating at SHSU?
Well, you know, in our business, things used to be tape-based, right? So you would have 3/4 inch, 1 inch, then they came out with the Betacam, then it was D2 and D1, all different formats. So that in itself is a rise from analog to kind of more of a digital format. But now it's file-based. Everything's on a hard drive, and some of those hard drives are SANs, and SANs could be petabytes. You know, it's like huge amounts of data that you would store on those. So you have easy access to it. Security's gotten a lot tighter, and it's a little quicker to use it. It's a workstation. It's not a switcher and an edit controller and tape machines in the back room, so it doesn't resemble really at all what it used to be. But the one thing that hasn't changed is that person running it, the creativity and the vision that they have to utilize that stuff. But oh gosh, the industry's changed so much, as I'm sure almost every industry has.
You touched a little bit on the different technologies that changed over time. So are there any other emerging technologies or trends that you experienced working with over the years that you found exciting or challenging?
There's always new software, you know, that comes up, and you have to learn that. Sometimes as you get a little bit older, like I have, of course, you have a tendency of not learning as quickly, or the desire to learn as quickly might not be there. I really have to kick myself a lot to make sure that I do that. I think everybody does. The one thing that I do see is that we're kind of moving in an area where AI is kind of being introduced into our industries. And I think that unknown really scares a lot of people. I think it used to be that people would have the fact that, or feel comfortable in the sense that people would have integrity, right? They would want to maintain a constant level of creativity without introducing something that might disrupt that. I don't know that AI is going to fit into that. I think AI could be a great asset, but I think it could also be a huge liability if used incorrectly. And so it really kind of falls into the hands of us, you know, to kind of keep that in check. So that's something that does scare me a little bit, is how that could take over the industry, a lot of industries actually.
So Jeff, what does the future hold for you?
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get more involved with colleges. I'm obviously towards the end of my career. I'm 65, and I'd like to try to give back. I think that's extremely important. I think that the best thing that I could do for myself and our industry is to share what I've learned, to try to share some of the information that I have, try to encourage people to go out and be their best self, not only professionally but personally. I think that's what we need more of, and I would like to see a lot of people in the industry do that, take on that role. I think it's a natural progression for somebody who's gone through a 40-something year career to want to give back and see that next generation go out there and make a huge change for the better.
That's amazing. Do you have any advice for current students looking to work in the same industry as you?
Sure, I would say that, you have to realize that you're going to spend a lot of time there. It's an industry that's kind of demanding. I think a lot of industries are, medical industries especially, creative industry. It's something that gives you a chance, an avenue to express yourself. I would say take advantage of that. Don't be afraid to express yourself because, you have something to offer. That's why you've been given this opportunity and you're in a position to do that. So kind of push the boundaries a little bit, and really help build the future of that industry. But realize that it's not a 9-to-5 job, it's really not. If you really love it, it's a career, it's not a job. And careers take a lot of your life, they really do, a lot of attention. So just be ready for that, I guess is my advice.
If you could sum up your time at SHSU in one word, what word would you use?
Grateful. I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's amazing. Is there anything you'd like to mention or talk about that I haven't asked you a question for yet?
It's a global business that we're in. A lot of people would look at, I'm going to get a job in Houston from Sam Houston, or I'm going to get a job in Dallas. I would say open up the world to your mind. It doesn't have to be within a 100-mile radius. You can work anywhere. Don't be afraid of that. Just know that it is a global community we live in these days, so be open to that idea.